The ocean has always held a certain hypnotic allure, a vast expanse of liquid mystery that conceals more than it reveals. Beneath its shifting, sunlit surface lies a world that humankind has only begun to scratch at, an abyss filled with secrets, shadows, and the faint whispers of civilizations long erased from memory. Imagine a diver descending into the murky depths, the faint hum of the ocean enveloping them as the light from the surface dwindles into nothingness. Here, the boundaries of reality seem to blur. Rocks and corals give way to structures that do not belong, to shapes that echo architecture centuries older than anything remembered. It is here, in this silent, sunless world, that the whispers of a sunken kingdom begin to stir. Legends of lost kingdoms have fascinated humanity for millennia. Stories of entire cities swallowed by the sea have been passed down from one generation to another, often dismissed as myths, fairy tales, or exaggerations. Yet, these stories persist, cropping up across continents and cultures, each telling the same haunting tale. The human ambition, hubris, or divine will have wiped entire civilizations from the map. Atlantis, perhaps the most famous of these legends, has captured imaginations for centuries. A kingdom of unimaginable wealth and sophistication vanished beneath the waves in a single, catastrophic moment. But beyond Atlantis, other accounts, less famous but equally compelling, speak of civilizations in the Indian Ocean, the Mediterranean, and the Caribbean that vanished almost without a trace. Could there be a kernel of truth hidden in these myths? Could the oceans still guard the remnants of kingdoms that once rivaled the great powers of their time? As we begin this journey, it is crucial to confront the tension between what mainstream history tells us and what the scattered clues beneath the waves suggest. Archaeologists, geologists, and historians have long debated the plausibility of sunken kingdoms, often emphasizing the lack of verifiable evidence. Yet, the oceans are vast, and the depths remain largely unexplored. Every dive, every sonar scan, every artifact retrieved from the seabed challenges our assumptions about the past. Could it be that some stories are not myths at all, but carefully suppressed truths, hidden by time and tide, waiting for the right moment, or the right eyes, to uncover them? Picture a stormy night at sea. Waves crash against the hull of a small vessel, lightning illuminating the endless dark water, revealing fleeting glimpses of shapes beneath. The crew aboard this vessel is not merely fishing or exploring. They're chasing history itself. Their sonar equipment hums, scanning the depths for anything unusual. Then, faintly, a shape emerges, angular, symmetrical, almost impossibly precise. A structure that seems impossibly old, yet undeniably artificial. The excitement is palpable, yet tempered by unease. What civilization could have built something like this? And why has it remained hidden for so long? The thrill of discovery is matched by the creeping sense that the past is not entirely meant to be found, that some knowledge was lost deliberately, as if the oceans themselves are guardians of a secret humanity is not yet ready to understand. This introduction is not just about setting the stage for underwater exploration. It is about establishing a mood of quiet tension, an immersive atmosphere that prepares the viewer to question what they think they know. The sea is not merely a physical barrier. It is a metaphorical one, separating modern humanity from a history that challenges the foundations of what we accept as true. Sunken cities are not only a test of our technological prowess, but a confrontation with our own ignorance. They remind us that the world we inhabit is only a fraction of what has existed, and that beneath the waves, time has preserved memories we may never fully grasp. Even the faintest glimmer of light filtering down from above becomes a symbol of hope and curiosity, a fragile thread connecting the surface world with the deep, uncharted realm below. Every rock face, every submerged wall, every pattern carved in a stone may hold the answers to questions long buried. Who were the people that inhabited these sunken lands? What drove them to create cities that now lie silent beneath the ocean? And perhaps most intriguingly, What caused their sudden disappearance, leaving only whispers and echoes for those brave enough to listen? By the end of this section, the audience is drawn into a world of suspense and wonder, primed to follow a journey that moves from myth to evidence, from legend to scientific inquiry. The sea is no longer just a vast body of water. It becomes a threshold, a portal into a hidden history that challenges everything we think we know. And as the diver continues downward, descending further into darkness, so too does the viewer descend into a narrative that promises revelation, danger, and the irresistible allure of the unknown. The story of a sunken kingdom is not merely a story about the past. It is a story about curiosity, obsession, and the human desire to uncover what has been deliberately, mysteriously, or tragically hidden. Beneath the waves, the whispers persist. And for those willing to listen, the secrets of the sunken kingdom are only just beginning to emerge. Across the centuries, the human imagination has been captivated by stories of cities swallowed by the sea, civilizations erased in an instant, and kingdoms whose existence has been all but forgotten. These are not simply tales told for entertainment. They are echoes of a collective memory that refuses to fade, fragments of truth hidden within myth. From mysterious halls of Atlantis, described by Plato, to the legendary sunken city of Dvarka mentioned in the Mahabharata, these legends span continents and cultures, suggesting that the notion of submerged civilizations is far from confined to a single culture or era. Atlantis is perhaps the most famous of these stories, a city of grandeur, immense wealth, and technological marvels, suddenly lost beneath the waves. Plato's account has fascinated scholars, explorers, and dreamers for centuries. Yet beyond Atlantis, lesser-known myths hint at a world in which entire civilizations could vanish without a trace. In the Indian Ocean, the ancient texts speak of Dvarka, the fabled city of Lord Krishna, submerged under the waters after a period of divine or cosmic judgment. Legends from Japan speak of Yanaguni, mysterious underwater formations that may point to human activity thousands of years ago. Even in the Caribbean, local folklore tells of cities engulfed by rising tides, their inhabitants vanished, leaving only whispers in the waves. The persistence of these stories across the globe raises an unavoidable question. Why do so many cultures share remarkably similar narratives about cities lost to the sea? Is it merely coincidence? Or is there a common historical truth embedded in these myths? Folklorists often argue that flood myths serve symbolic purposes, representing rebirth, divine wrath, or moral lessons. Yet, the consistency and specificity of many descriptions, buildings, streets, temples, hint at something more concrete, something that might have actually existed. When multiple accounts converge across geography and time, the line between myth and history begins to blur. Legends, however, are not static. They evolve, shaped by the collective imagination of generations. Over time, facts may be embellished, names altered, and timelines compressed. Oral traditions, in particular, serve as both vessels and filters of memory, preserving fragments while leaving gaps where details are lost. A fisherman in coastal India may recount a tale of sunken city in ways strikingly similar to ancient Sanskrit texts, while Caribbean islanders recall entire communities submerged after sudden storms. Stories that, at first glance, seem disconnected yet carry uncanny parallels. The challenge for modern researchers is discerning the kernels of truth buried beneath centuries of narrative flourishes. Archaeological discoveries often give credence to these legends. In the Mediterranean, the ruins of Thonis-Heracleion lay submerged for over a millennium, its existence preserved only in fragmented Egyptian texts and Greek accounts. When divers explored the site, they found monumental statues, temples, and streets perfectly aligned, an astonishing match to the myths that survived in written form. Similarly, the discovery of submerged structures near Dvarka's coastline, complete with stone foundations, streets, and artifacts, has led many to reconsider the line between legend and history. These findings demonstrate that what was once dismissed as fanciful storytelling may, In fact, be a historical record waiting to be confirmed by modern science. Yet the allure of these stories is not solely rooted in archaeology. There's a psychological fascination with the idea of lost worlds, a magnetic pull toward what has been erased from collective memory. Humans are drawn to the unknown, particularly when it involves secrets hidden beneath water, a medium that symbolizes both life and oblivion. Submersion is a potent metaphor. Water conceals as it preserves, erases as it sustains. The sea acts as both guardian and grave, hiding treasures and evidence of civilizations that dare to defy time. It is this duality that keeps the imagination alive, allowing myths to endure across generations. Contrast also plays a vital role in sustaining these legends. Mainstream history often dismisses these stories, citing lack of evidence or labeling them as fantastical. Yet, each new underwater discovery challenges this dismissal. The tension between belief and skepticism, legend and empirical data, creates a narrative ripe for exploration. It is this contrast that makes the stories of sunken kingdoms so compelling. We are confronted with the possibility that what has been buried is not only real, but intentionally forgotten, obscured by tides, time, and perhaps human intervention. Consider the recurring motifs across these myths. Cities often vanish suddenly, usually following natural cataclysms such as floods, earthquakes, or volcanic eruptions. In many accounts, the inhabitants are warned or cursed before the destruction, suggesting an awareness of impending catastrophe. Temples, palaces, and marketplaces are meticulously described, hinting at sophisticated societies whose knowledge and technology rivaled or surpassed what later generations would achieve. These details, preserved through storytelling, resonate with modern archaeology, which increasingly uncovers evidence of advanced structures and urban planning in submerged sites. Ultimately, these legends act as bridges, connecting us to the past while challenging our understanding of history. They encourage us to question what has been lost, forgotten, or deliberately hidden. They invite us to imagine worlds beyond our own experience, where human ingenuity and hubris meet the inexorable power of nature. And as we peer beneath the waves, tracing the outlines of structures and streets, we are reminded that myths may hold truths, that memories encoded in stories might be more than mere fiction. They could be fragments of a reality long submerged, waiting to resurface. By the end of this section, the viewer is left with an intimate understanding of the global tapestry of sunken city myths, the consistency of their details across cultures, and the tantalizing possibility that hidden truths await discovery. The stage is set for a journey that moves from the realm of legend into the tangible world of evidence, from whispered stories to underwater revelations, from imagination to confrontation with history itself. The oceans have always been both a highway and a barrier, a route for exploration and conquest, and a shroud for secrets lost to time. Long before modern ships traced their routes across the globe, ancient mariners navigated treacherous waters using rudimentary tools, keen observation, and generations of inherited knowledge. These sailors ventured farther than we often credit them, and in doing so, they left behind tantalizing hints of civilizations now claimed by the sea. The tales of lost cities are not merely myths. They are echoes of voyages undertaken by those who knew the waters intimately, and whose maps, though long forgotten or dismissed, may contain traces of worlds erased by cataclysm. Consider the ancient Phoenicians, renowned for their maritime prowess. These master sailors of the Mediterranean traded across vast distances, connecting distant civilizations and charting waters few others dared traverse. Their skill lay not only in seamanship, but in observation. Currents, winds, and celestial markers became their guides. Some historians speculate that they may have glimpsed or even visited lands now submerged, leaving subtle hints in the records and trade routes they meticulously maintained. Yet, much of their knowledge was oral, coded into navigation techniques, and rarely committed to writing in a way that could survive the centuries. Then there are the enigmatic Piri-Reis maps, created in the early 16th century. These charts, drawn with meticulous precision, depict coastlines and islands that defy conventional understanding. Some interpretations suggest they show parts of Antarctica long before it was officially discovered, as well as regions now underwater due to rising seas. Scholars debate the origins of these maps, with some arguing they incorporate lost ancient knowledge passed down from mariners whose routes and observations have otherwise vanished. Whether legend, coincidence, or proof of ancient exploration, such maps tantalize historians with the possibility that civilizations lost to the sea were once known, charted, and recorded by those who sailed the waters centuries before modern instruments existed. Ancient Chinese and Polynesian mariners also leave behind fragments of a vast, interconnected seafaring world. Polynesian navigators traversed thousands of miles of open ocean, guided by stars, swells, and the flight patterns of birds. Their oral traditions describe islands that no longer exist and cities engulfed by tides. In East Asia, early Chinese maritime expeditions during the Han Dynasty may have reached lands now submerged in the South China Sea, evidenced by ancient legends and unexpected archaeological remnants along coastal regions. These stories challenge our assumptions about the limitations of ancient exploration, suggesting that the memory of lost civilizations was not entirely erased, but preserved, sometimes cryptically, through navigation lore and maritime records. The role of maps in preserving this hidden knowledge cannot be overstated. Long before satellite imagery or sonar, maps were both tools and treasures, encoding the understanding of the world and the memory of what once was. Some maps depict coastlines that no longer exist, islands that vanished, and reefs now hidden beneath hundreds of feet of water. Scholars who study these maps often encounter patterns too precise to dismiss as coincidental. The question arises, how did ancient cartographers know of these lands? Were they copying older charts, receiving oral accounts from travelers, or recording first-hand observations of places that would soon disappear beneath the waves? The answer remains elusive, but each map is a clue pointing to forgotten chapters of human history. Yet, the story of ancient mariners is not just about cartography. It is about human daring and curiosity. The sea was, for them, both a provider and a destroyer, offering trade, adventure, and discovery, while exacting a harsh toll on those who misjudged its power. Survivors' accounts often describe sudden storms, tidal waves, or violent currents that could obliterate entire fleets in moments. Many of these disasters were memorialized in oral histories, sometimes transforming into legends of lost cities swallowed by the ocean. In this way, the practical dangers of ancient seafaring merged with myth, leaving a trail of stories that survive to this day, blurring the line between real events and narrative embellishment. The interplay between exploration and disappearance becomes particularly compelling when we consider reports of cities described in sailor logs, long before their discovery or recognition in modern archaeology. Ancient texts occasionally mention ports, harbors, and islands that no longer exist or whose existence is contested. Mariners' journals, when compared to submerged ruins discovered centuries later, often reveal startling parallels. In some cases, the shape of a sunken city aligns almost perfectly with descriptions provided in ancient accounts. Temples where temples were said to stand, streets laid out in patterns recorded on maps. These coincidences hint an unbroken chain of knowledge, passed from seafarer to seafarer, until it was eventually buried by time and the tides. Modern technology, sonar mapping, deep-sea diving, and satellite imaging now allows us to retrace the paths of these ancient mariners. What was once invisible can now be revealed in startling detail. Submerged roads, walls, and harbors lie beneath the waves, awaiting confirmation of stories that have persisted for millennia. Each new discovery is a reminder that the oceans are not empty voids, but archives of human history, where the daring ventures of long-dead sailors intersect with the inexorable power of nature. By the end of this section, The audience is left with a profound appreciation for the ancient mariners who, knowingly or unknowingly, preserve fragments of sunken civilizations. The maps they created, the voyages they undertook, and the stories they left behind form a bridge between myth and reality, suggesting that submerged kingdoms were once tangible places, known to those who dare to venture across the waters. The stage is set for a deeper exploration, where legend begins to meet evidence, and where the line between history and myth becomes increasingly difficult to discern. Beneath the oceans, the Earth holds a story of slow, inexorable change, a story written not in ink or stone, but in tectonic plates, shifting sediments, and the scars of cataclysm. Civilizations that thrived for centuries may have vanished not solely because of human failure or divine wrath, but because of forces far beyond their control. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and rising seas have shaped the planet for millennia, reshaping coastlines, submerging fertile lands, and erasing entire cities from human memory. To understand the sunken kingdoms whispered about in myth, one must first understand the restless, ever-changing nature of the world beneath the waves. Geology reveals that the Earth is not static. Continents drift, ocean basins expand, and coastlines transform dramatically over relatively short periods of time. Evidence of sudden submersion events exists in sediment layers, fossil records, and submerged forests discovered in coastal regions. For example, off the coast of India, archaeologists have found evidence of abrupt flooding events in areas where ancient cities were once believed to stand. Soil analysis indicates massive sediment displacement, pointing to powerful currents and rising waters that could have engulfed settlements in a matter of hours or days. Such rapid changes would have left little trace above the water, preserving only the faint outlines of streets, walls, and temples for future generations to uncover. Tectonic activity plays a particularly compelling role in the story of sunken kingdoms. Earthquakes can fracture the seabed, causing entire regions to sink almost instantly, a phenomenon documented throughout history. Submerged cities in the Mediterranean and Southeast Asia may owe their disappearance to seismic shifts that altered the ocean floor, pulling settlements below the surface with frightening suddenness. Some researchers suggest that catastrophic events, such as a combination of earthquakes and tsunamis, could explain the abrupt vanishing of coastal civilizations, which, in folklore, were often described as being swallowed by the sea in a single night. These geological forces, imperceptible to ancient populations, could transform thriving cities into silent underwater graveyards. Sea level changes, both gradual and sudden, add another layer of complexity. During the last ice age, water levels were significantly lower, exposing land now submerged. As glaciers melted and sea levels rose, coastal settlements faced inevitable inundation. Archaeological surveys have revealed evidence of ancient structures beneath hundreds of feet of water, suggesting that entire communities, unaware of the creeping tide, were eventually consumed by the rising seas. This slow-motion catastrophe would have left behind only stories, legends, and, in some cases, remarkably well-preserved ruins beneath sediments that insulated them from decay. Volcanic activity has also shaped the fate of sunken civilizations. Islands in the Mediterranean, such as Santorini, were devastated by eruptions that triggered tsunamis, ash fallout, and seismic instability. These events not only obliterated settlements, but also altered the surrounding geography, effectively erasing cities from maps and memory. Across the globe, similar volcanic events may have submerged cities along the coasts of Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean, leaving only fragmentary evidence for modern researchers to discover. The combination of eruption, seismic activity, and rising water levels created conditions perfectly suited to the creation of myths, transforming historical catastrophe into legend. Sedimentation and erosion further obscure the traces of lost civilizations. Over centuries, rivers deposit layers of silt, and tides bring sands and debris that gradually cover the remains of structures. Coral growth and marine life colonize submerged areas, transforming human-made structures into seemingly natural formations. What once was a palace may appear as nothing more than a jagged rock, and temples may dissolve into labyrinths of coral and stone. For centuries, these changes have made verification of ancient accounts extraordinarily difficult. Yet beneath the layers, clues persist, alignments, carvings, and artifacts that suggest intentional construction, hinting at human presence and achievement long forgotten. Geology also offers clues to the timing of these events. Radiocarbon dating of submerged wood, analysis of sediment layers, and examination of fossilized remains all suggest that some civilizations disappeared suddenly, within decades, rather than over centuries. Such rapid events align eerily with the myths of cities vanishing overnight. This convergence of science and legend is one of the most compelling aspects of sunken kingdom studies. The Earth itself corroborates what ancient storytellers recorded, even if mainstream historians are reluctant to connect the dots. But geology is not only about the past. It also offers guidance for exploration today. By understanding patterns of tectonic activity, sediment accumulation, and erosion, researchers can predict where submerged cities may lie hidden. Sonar mapping and deep-sea exploration often begin with geological surveys, identifying anomalies in the seabed that hint at artificial structures. These investigations reveal cities buried beneath meters of silt, hidden temples aligned with ancient star patterns, and roads whose courses define natural formation. Without the lens of geology, these discoveries would remain invisible, their secrets swallowed permanently by the ocean. This section also invites reflection on the fragility of human endeavor in the face of nature's immense power. Entire civilizations, sophisticated and technologically capable, may be wiped from existence with little warning, their achievements preserved only in myths and scattered artifacts. The stories of Atlantis, Dvarka, and other sunken cities become not just tales of hubris or divine punishment, but sobering reminders of how quickly human constructs can be overwhelmed by forces beyond comprehension. They remind us that history is not solely the record of human action, but also the imprint of the earth itself. A living, moving canvas that preserves, conceals, and reshapes. By the end of this section, the viewer is confronted with the incredible scale of natural forces, the delicate balance of human survival, and the scientific underpinnings that make the stories of sunken kingdoms plausible. The stage is set for the next step of the journey, moving from the raw, unyielding forces of nature to the tangible evidence left behind in the form of submerged structures, artifacts, and relics that bear silent testimony to civilizations that once thrived and then vanished beneath the waves. Artifacts are the silent witnesses of history, fragments of human achievement that survive long after civilizations vanish. Beneath the ocean's surface, submerged relics tell stories that written records often cannot. Each piece, whether a carved statue, a polished tool, or a fragment of pottery, is a tangible connection to people whose cities were swallowed by the sea. These objects carry not only aesthetic or functional value, but also the memory of a culture, offering glimpses into technological sophistication, social structure, and spiritual life long erased from the historical record. Some of the most fascinating discoveries come from the Indian Ocean. Divers exploring the submerged city near Dvarka uncovered intricately carved stone pillars and sculptures, remnants of temples dedicated to deities long worshipped. The precision of the carvings, the alignment of pillars, and the symbolism etched into stone suggest a civilization of remarkable artistry and technical knowledge. These artifacts are not mere ornaments. They are evidence of social order, religious devotion, and advanced engineering. The placement of certain relics in specific orientations hints at an understanding of astronomy and ritual practices, echoing patterns seen in other ancient civilizations around the world. Bronze tools and weapons recovered from underwater sites offer further insight into the technological capabilities of these civilizations. Swords, chisels, and farming implements often display a level of craftsmanship that challenges assumptions about early societies. The metallurgy indicates knowledge of alloys, heat treatment, and durability, skills that may have rivaled or even surpassed contemporary civilizations on dry land. These artifacts invite a re-evaluation of technological timelines, suggesting that submerged cities may have preserved knowledge lost to the terrestrial record, hidden for millennia beneath the ocean's protective embrace. Religious and ceremonial artifacts carry a unique resonance. Statues, amulets, and ritual objects, often meticulously crafted, hint at complex belief systems. They reflect the ways in which societies understood the cosmos, the divine, and the human condition. In some cases, symbols found on submerged relics bear striking resemblance to iconography from distant cultures, suggesting that ideas may have traveled across oceans long before global exploration as we know it. Such artifacts fuel speculation about cultural exchange, maritime trade, and the interconnectedness of ancient civilizations. They also raise questions about the origins of myth, implying that some legends of sunken kingdoms may be based on historical reality rather than pure imagination. Pottery, a seemingly mundane relic, often tells as much about a civilization as monuments do. Clay vessels recovered from the seabed show advanced firing techniques, decorative motifs, and indications of domestic and ceremonial use. The designs often reflect societal hierarchies, trade networks, and aesthetic sensibilities. Some pottery bears inscriptions, mysterious symbols, or depictions of mythological scenes, providing a rare glimpse into the stories, language, and culture of the inhabitants. The durability of ceramics allows them to survive where wood, textiles, and other materials decay, making them vital keys to understanding submerged societies. Jewelry and adornments offer insight into wealth, social structure, and artistry. Gold, silver, and gemstone pieces recovered from underwater sites suggest that sunken cities were not simple fishing villages, but centers of culture, trade, and power. The craftsmanship demonstrates not only skill, but an appreciation for beauty and symbolism. Certain patterns and motifs echo astronomical phenomena or religious beliefs, indicating a society deeply attuned to both the spiritual and natural world. Each piece is a microcosm of the civilization it came from, a preserved fragment of identity that survived the ocean's unrelenting currents. In addition to artifacts, architectural relics themselves serve as tangible evidence of human presence. Stone foundations, walls, and steps recovered from submerged cities reveal planning, engineering, and construction techniques. The use of specific materials, alignment with celestial bodies, and incorporation of defensive features suggest that these cities were not temporary settlements, but permanent, thriving metropolises. Some underwater structures defy conventional understanding of ancient engineering, hinting at a lost knowledge or technology that allowed these civilizations to achieve architectural feats long before modern methods existed. One of the most compelling aspects of these relics is their ability to bridge the gap between myth and evidence. Ancient texts, often dismissed as allegorical or exaggerated, describe temples, palaces, and markets with remarkable accuracy. When artifacts corresponding to these descriptions are found beneath the waves, the line between legend and history begins to blur. Objects recovered in Atlantis, Thonis-Heracleion, and other submerged cities provide corroboration of stories passed down for millennia, revealing that myths often carry grains of truth preserved in narrative form. Yet, the ocean is both preservative and destructive. Currents, sediment, and corrosion can alter, damage, or obscure artifacts, leaving archaeologists to interpret fragments rather than complete objects. The challenge lies in piecing together partial evidence to reconstruct the life, culture, and knowledge of entire societies. Each discovery is a puzzle piece, and sometimes even the smallest fragment, a shard of pottery, a broken tool, or a fragment of statue, can reshape our understanding of history. The process is meticulous and slow, but the rewards are profound. Every artifact retrieved is a voice from the past, speaking across centuries to those who are willing to listen. These relics also invite questions about knowledge lost to history. If civilizations of such sophistication existed and were submerged, what technologies, philosophies, and cultural practices disappeared with them? What knowledge might have been preserved, only to be forgotten or hidden? Scholars and enthusiasts alike speculate that sunken kingdoms may hold secrets about navigation, astronomy, engineering, and even governance that could reshape our understanding of human development. The artifacts recovered are silent witnesses to ingenuity now nearly erased, and their study is crucial for reconstructing the broader picture of a submerged world. By the end of this section, the viewer gains a profound appreciation for the artifacts and relics that form the tangible evidence of sunken kingdoms. These objects, carefully preserved by water and sediment, carry stories of artistry, technology, spirituality, and daily life. They transform myth into reality, providing glimpses of civilizations that once thrived and were suddenly lost to the sea. The stage is set for exploring the next layer of the story, the hidden knowledge and secret societies that may have been connected to these sunken civilizations, and the deliberate suppression of what these artifacts reveal. Throughout history, knowledge has often been treated as a precious and dangerous commodity, hoarded by a select few rather than shared freely. This is particularly true when it comes to the mysteries of the deep, the civilizations swallowed by the sea, and the technologies, philosophies, and spiritual insights they may have possessed. Secret societies, esoteric orders, and clandestine maritime guilds have long fascinated historians and conspiracy theorists alike, partly because they claim to safeguard knowledge that could otherwise disrupt the accepted narrative of history. Some of this hidden wisdom may very well have originated from civilizations now submerged beneath the waves. The Freemasons, often cited in discussions of secret knowledge, have been associated with ancient symbolism and esoteric traditions. Some scholars argue that their rituals, architecture, and teachings encode fragments of lost history, possibly derived from civilizations whose cities were swallowed by the oceans. Symbols found in Masonic temples, geometric shapes, astronomical alignments, and iconography echo patterns seen in sunken structures uncovered by modern underwater archaeology. Whether coincidence or deliberate inheritance, these parallels suggest a lineage of knowledge stretching back millennia, preserved and transmitted by societies sworn to secrecy. Similarly, the Rosicrucians, an enigmatic order emerging in Europe during the early modern period, claim insights into alchemy, cosmology, and the hidden workings of nature. Texts attributed to the order often allude to lost civilizations and ancient wisdom buried, both figuratively and literally. Some interpretations suggest that references to submerged cities and forgotten kingdoms are not allegorical, but record fragments of historical truth, encoded in symbolism and ritual. The preservation of such knowledge, intentionally hidden, aligns with the idea that certain truths about humanity's past were deemed too dangerous, too powerful, or too revolutionary to be widely known. Maritime guilds, too, played a role in guarding knowledge. In eras when exploration and trade were both lucrative and perilous, controlling information about sea routes, hidden harbors, and submerged lands was essential. Sailors, cartographers, and merchants often encoded their discoveries in symbols, secret maps, or oral traditions. The knowledge of submerged cities, advanced harbor constructions, and coastal settlements may have been part of these guarded traditions, transmitted only to trusted apprentices or guild members. The deliberate secrecy ensured that strategic advantages were maintained, while the general public remained unaware of the true extent of maritime knowledge. The intersection between secret societies and sunken civilizations becomes even more intriguing when examining myths and religious narratives. Many legends of submerged kingdoms carry motifs of moral or divine punishment, advanced technology, and catastrophic destruction, elements that align with the esoteric themes found in orders like the Freemasons or Rosicrucians. Some researchers argue that these societies may have preserved not only the stories themselves, but also practical knowledge encoded in symbolic form. Architectural patterns, ritual objects, and coded texts could all serve as conduits for wisdom passed down from civilizations erased by the sea. In this context, mythology is not merely entertainment. It is a vehicle for hidden history, carefully encoded to survive across centuries. Certain artifacts uncovered in underwater excavations hint at deliberate knowledge preservation. In Dvarka, for instance, relics suggest advanced engineering, astronomical alignment, and complex urban planning. It is conceivable that this knowledge was transmitted orally or symbolically through networks of priests, scholars, or mariners. Over time, as cities were submerged and the general population lost access to these techniques, secret societies could have acted as custodians, maintaining fragments of wisdom that mainstream history eventually forgot. These societies, then, are not merely gatekeepers of obscure ritual. They may be the final link in a chain of knowledge extending back to civilizations long erased by cataclysm. The theme of suppression is unavoidable. Mainstream historical narratives often overlook or dismiss evidence that challenges conventional timelines. Reports of submerged cities, anomalous artifacts, and strange maritime discoveries are frequently relegated to the margins of scholarship or dismissed as anomalies. Secret societies, in contrast, are rumored to hold and protect these fragments, whether to safeguard human understanding, maintain spiritual authority, or prevent upheaval in societal perception. While some claims verge on speculation, the consistency of symbols, rituals, and esoteric practices across continents suggests more than coincidence. Patterns repeat, hinting at a deliberate and ancient effort to preserve select knowledge. Even modern explorations occasionally intersect with these hidden threads. Divers and researchers often report discovering inscriptions, symbolic carvings, and artifact arrangements that align with esoteric principles. Whether these are remnants of ancient civilizations themselves or echoes of later societies preserving that knowledge, the evidence suggests a continuum. Knowledge flows from sunken kingdoms through secret custodians, bridging past and present. The ocean, once a grave for civilizations, becomes a repository of wisdom guarded by human and natural forces alike. The implication of these connections is profound. It challenges conventional assumptions about lost civilizations, suggesting that the stories we inherit are fragments of a carefully curated history. Secret societies may have acted as intermediaries, ensuring that knowledge survived, even if obscured, through centuries of upheaval. Their existence adds a layer of intrigue and mystery, highlighting the tension between what is visible, what is hidden, and what humanity is ready or not ready to know. By the end of this section, the viewer understands that the story of sunken kingdoms is not only about the cities themselves, but also about the threads of knowledge preserved across time. These threads connect myths, artifacts, archaeology, and human curiosity into a complex tapestry of hidden history. Secret societies and esoteric orders may have acted as the custodians of wisdom from civilizations swallowed by the sea, ensuring that fragments of their knowledge survived long enough to be rediscovered. The stage is now set for exploring the mystical dimension of prophecy, divine warning, and ancient foresight, hinting at how submerged kingdoms were remembered not only in stone and artifact, but also in the spiritual consciousness of humanity. Sunken kingdoms are treasure troves not only of architecture and urban planning, but also of artifacts imbued with mystery, symbolism, and profound historical significance. Each object recovered from the ocean depths tells a story of human ingenuity, spiritual practice, and cultural expression, and together they form a mosaic that hints at knowledge both practical and esoteric. These artifacts serve as portals into the minds of civilizations long gone, offering glimpses into their beliefs, technologies, and even philosophies, some of which continue to baffle modern scholars. One of the most compelling types of artifacts are ritual objects and religious icons. In Dvarka, Divers have recovered intricately carved stone idols and bronze figures that depict deities in detailed ceremonial attire. The precision of these carvings is astonishing, suggesting advanced metalworking and sculptural techniques that required not only technical skill, but also a profound understanding of proportion, symbolism, and ritual significance. Many of these idols bear inscriptions or iconography that remain only partially deciphered, hinting at symbolic systems, spiritual philosophies, or secret knowledge encoded for adherents of particular rites. The objects themselves are imbued with a sense of purpose, crafted not merely as art, but as vessels for belief, intention, and memory. Thonis-Heracleion offers another striking example of mystical artifacts. Temple complexes submerged beneath the Mediterranean reveal altars, ceremonial vessels, and inscriptions that appear to encode astronomical, mathematical, or religious knowledge. Some tablets bear symbols whose exact meaning is still debated, possibly representing early attempts at recording cosmology, calendrical cycles, or metaphysical concepts. The meticulous craftsmanship suggests that these objects were not made casually. They were designed to endure time and water, serving as permanent repositories of sacred knowledge. The fact that many of these artifacts were preserved so well beneath layers of sediment raises questions about intentional preservation, perhaps anticipating that the cities themselves might one day be lost. Artifacts such as ceremonial tools, jewelry, and ritual implements also provide insight into daily spiritual and social life. In Dvarka and other submerged sites, objects crafted from bronze, gold, and stone display techniques that indicate specialized knowledge of metallurgy and material science. Some ritual implements bear geometric designs that align with celestial or numerological principles, suggesting that science and spirituality were not separate but intimately connected. Jewelry and decorative items, often found in temples or residential zones, indicate a society in which aesthetic sophistication, social identity, and religious devotion were intertwined. These artifacts were not simply adornments. They were expressions of cultural, spiritual, and intellectual achievement. Some recovered artifacts carry an air of enigma due to their construction or material composition. Certain bronze objects from Dvarka, for instance, show alloys and casting methods that are difficult to reproduce even today without modern equipment. Similarly, monolithic stone carvings from Thonis-Heracleion weigh multiple tons and are precisely aligned, suggesting techniques that exceeded the technological norms assumed for these periods. How these ancient artisans achieved such precision remains a subject of debate. Were they guided by lost engineering knowledge, advanced mathematical understanding, or techniques intentionally concealed from the broader populace? The very survival of these artifacts beneath the sea challenges assumptions about the limitations of ancient technology. Mystical significance is further suggested by the alignment, placement, and context of artifacts. Many ritual objects are found in specific locations within temples, ceremonial halls, or sacred precincts, often in patterns or orientations that appear deliberate. Altars align with cardinal directions. Certain carvings face celestial events, and ceremonial objects are positioned in ways that suggest symbolic meaning or functional purpose. Such intentionality indicates a culture that merged science, ritual, and cosmology, embedding knowledge in material forms that could survive centuries beneath the waves. The presence of symbolic inscriptions on artifacts offers tantalizing hints of forgotten knowledge. Some symbols correspond to known religious motifs, while others defy interpretation, possibly representing lost languages, esoteric codes, or mnemonic systems used to transmit spiritual or practical knowledge. The very existence of these inscriptions raises questions about literacy, communication, and the preservation of knowledge in ancient civilizations. Were these systems intended for a select, initiated group, a priesthood, or perhaps a guild of artisans and scholars? The artifacts suggest that access to certain knowledge may have been deliberately restricted, encoded within objects whose purpose was both functional and initiatory. Mystical artifacts also hint at the philosophical outlook of sunken civilizations. Many of the recovered objects emphasize harmony, balance, and connection between human life, natural forces, and cosmic order. Geometric designs, astronomical markers, and ceremonial implements reveal a worldview in which physical and metaphysical realities were intertwined. Objects were not simply tools. They were instruments for understanding the universe, mediating human interaction with natural and divine forces, and reinforcing societal cohesion through shared rituals and beliefs. This integration of science, spirituality, and aesthetics underscores the sophistication of these ancient societies and their holistic approach to existence. In addition to religious and ceremonial artifacts, utilitarian objects carry layers of symbolic significance. Tools, weights, and household items often feature markings or designs that may have served educational, ritualistic, or calendrical purposes. Pottery shards recovered from Atlantis and Thonis-Heracleion, for example, are decorated with geometric patterns or symbolic motifs that align with broader cosmological or cultural principles. These utilitarian items reflect a society in which the sacred and the mundane were deeply interconnected, where even everyday life was infused with awareness of cosmic order and spiritual significance. Some artifacts are particularly enigmatic because they appear to defy chronology. Certain objects resemble tools, devices, or designs that seem advanced for their purported historical period. These anomalies provoke questions about lost technologies, transmission of knowledge, or even cross-cultural exchange between distant civilizations. Were these artifacts evidence of forgotten scientific principles, experimental metallurgy, or undiscovered techniques? While definitive answers remain elusive, the very existence of these objects ensures that the submerged civilizations continue to captivate modern imagination and scholarly investigation alike. The ocean itself plays a role in shaping the perception of these artifacts. Preservation beneath layers of sediment and water has allowed delicate carvings, inscriptions, and compositions to survive intact for millennia. Coral incrustation, mineral deposits, and low oxygen levels have acted as natural conservators, creating a time capsule that allows modern explorers to examine objects as they were left by ancient hands. Yet the water also obscures and conceals, presenting challenges in interpretation, dating, and contextual analysis. Each discovery beneath the waves is both revelation and puzzle, a piece of the broader narrative that invites continuous exploration and interpretation. The cinematic allure of mystical artifacts lies not only in their craftsmanship, but also in the stories they evoke. Each object invites speculation about its creators, purpose, and journey from human hands to ocean floor. Did priests use them in sacred rituals to communicate with the divine? Were they symbols of power, markers of astronomical knowledge, or tools for recording history? The unanswered questions surrounding these artifacts enhance the allure of sunken kingdoms, blending empirical discovery with imagination and grounding myth and legend in tangible reality. By the end of this section, the viewer gains a profound appreciation for the role of artifacts in connecting the human, spiritual, and cosmic dimensions of sunken civilizations. These objects are not merely relics. They are evidence of intellectual achievement, spiritual sophistication, and cultural complexity. They reveal societies that merged practical knowledge with mystical insight, who encoded wisdom in stone, metal, and ceremonial design. As the narrative moves toward cataclysm, mystery, and modern rediscovery, these artifacts provide crucial clues, linking the material and metaphysical, and inviting viewers to ponder what other secrets might lie hidden beneath the waves. The existence of sunken kingdoms is not a matter of pure speculation. It is supported by a vast array of ancient records, maps, and legends that have survived the passage of time. Across continents and cultures, storytellers, priests, and chroniclers documented, in varying degrees of detail, the rise and catastrophic fall of civilizations now submerged beneath the ocean. These records, whether encoded in written texts, cartographic representations, or oral traditions, offer invaluable insight into the worlds that once thrived along coasts now claimed by the sea. One of the most compelling sources comes from India, where texts such as the Mahabharata describe the legendary city of Dwarka. According to these ancient epics, Dwarka was a marvel of urban planning, adorned with palaces, temples, and grand streets, inhabited by wise rulers and skilled craftsmen. The Mahabharata details the city's submersion into the sea, portraying it as both a historical event and a moral allegory, a reflection of divine retribution for human hubris. While initially dismissed as myth, modern underwater archaeology has revealed ruins in the region that correspond strikingly to the descriptions in these texts, suggesting that these records were far more than poetic imagination. Greek sources, most famously Plato's account of Atlantis, also provide tantalizing evidence. In Critias and Timaeus, Plato describes an advanced civilization that existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules and was swallowed by the ocean in a single day and night of catastrophe. The narrative emphasizes both technological achievement and moral decline, warning of the consequences of human pride. While debates about Atlantis' literal existence continue, the parallels between Plato's account and other regional legends, such as those from India, Egypt, and Mesopotamia, indicate that stories of catastrophic submersion were widely recorded across cultures. These legends may reflect collective memory of real events, passed down through generations in symbolic, narrative form. Maps and cartographic records provide another layer of evidence. Early maps, some predating the Renaissance, depict coastlines, islands, and land masses that no longer exist, suggesting knowledge of territories later submerged. Pierre Rees's 16th-century map of the Atlantic, for example, includes details of coastlines that align with modern sonar mapping of submerged regions, sparking debate among historians and cartographers. Similarly, ancient Indian maps and maritime charts show settlements along now-submerged coastlines, indicating that ancient mariners were aware of the geographic changes that have since occurred. These maps offer tangible proof that knowledge of sunken civilizations persisted long after their destruction, transmitted through maritime networks, scholarly study, and oral tradition. Legends from Egypt, particularly surrounding Thonis-Heracleion and Canopus, further support the existence of sunken kingdoms. Ancient records speak of prosperous port cities that suddenly vanished beneath the Mediterranean, swallowed by rising waters and seismic activity. Temples dedicated to gods, such as Ammonius and Osiris, contained inscriptions warning of divine wrath and natural disasters, suggesting a cultural memory attuned to environmental change. These inscriptions and texts not only confirm historical submersion, but also reveal that ancient civilizations consciously encoded knowledge of catastrophe and morality into their records, preserving lessons for future generations. Across the Pacific and Atlantic, similar narratives emerge. Polynesian oral histories recount islands lost to the sea, sudden floods, and the migration of people in response to environmental changes. Central American myths describe civilizations inundated by water, often with moral or cosmological significance attached to the events. While separated by geography, these accounts share common motifs: catastrophic submersion, moral or spiritual lessons, and survival or migration of human populations. The repetition of these motifs across cultures suggests either a shared human experience of coastal disaster or the transmission of stories through long-distance maritime trade networks. Some records hint at technological knowledge encoded within these legends. For instance, descriptions of grand buildings, advanced waterways, or ceremonial complexes often include details suggesting engineering or mathematical sophistication. Ancient writers sometimes noted the precision of walls, the alignment of temples with celestial events, or the layout of streets and harbors. These references, when paired with modern archaeological evidence, suggest that ancient chroniclers were documenting not only historical events, but also advanced knowledge about construction, astronomy, and urban planning. The accuracy of these accounts challenges assumptions about the technological limitations of ancient civilizations. Oral traditions add a further layer of richness. Stories passed down through generations often preserve cultural memory more vividly than written records, encoding historical, moral, and environmental knowledge in narrative form. Folk songs, epics, and proverbs frequently reference floods, lost cities, and maritime disaster. Even when embellished or symbolic, these oral accounts often correspond with material evidence, such as submerged ruins or sedimentary layers indicating catastrophic events. The persistence of oral tradition highlights the resilience of human memory and the role of storytelling in preserving knowledge across time and space. Some records also hint at esoteric or hidden knowledge associated with sunken kingdoms. Inscriptions, cryptic texts, and ceremonial artifacts suggest that certain information about construction techniques, spiritual practice, or celestial observation was deliberately restricted to priesthoods, guilds, or ruling classes. The secrecy may have been practical, preserving knowledge critical to survival, or spiritual, conferring symbolic authority to those initiated into esoteric understanding. Modern discovery of these artifacts and inscriptions allows scholars to piece together fragments of these once-hidden systems, revealing layers of meaning and complexity that were encoded for both protection and continuity. The interplay between legend, record, and archaeology provides a compelling narrative for modern audiences. By comparing textual descriptions with submerged structures, researchers can identify correspondences in city layouts, temple orientations, and artifact locations. For example, streets mapped in Dvarka align with descriptions in the Mahabharata, while temples in Thonis-Heracleion correspond to recorded sacred precincts in Egyptian texts. Such correlations bridge the gap between myth and material evidence, suggesting that these civilizations were aware of their vulnerability and actively sought to document their achievements and moral frameworks for posterity. Finally, these ancient records, maps, and legends shape the ongoing search for sunken kingdoms. They act as guides for exploration, providing clues to location, structure, and historical context. Modern expeditions rely on textual references, cartographic hints, and oral traditions to direct sonar scans, diving missions, and archaeological digs. Each discovery validates parts of these records, while also raising new questions, ensuring that the narrative of sunken kingdoms remains dynamic, evolving, and deeply compelling. By the end of this section, the audience appreciates the intricate tapestry of textual, cartographic, and oral evidence that points to the reality of sunken kingdoms. These records are more than stories. They are windows into human experience, ambition, and resilience. They reveal that ancient civilizations not only documented their achievements, but also encoded lessons, warnings, and knowledge in ways that continue to resonate. The stage is now set for the exploration of cataclysms and anomalies that finally submerged these cities, blending myth, record, and modern investigation into a seamless story of discovery, mystery, and wonder. The ocean, once an impenetrable barrier to human curiosity, has become an open archive of history thanks to modern technology. Sonar mapping, deep-sea submersibles, and advanced diving equipment now allow archaeologists to explore submerged cities with unprecedented precision. What was once the domain of myth and speculation is increasingly tangible, as entire streets, temples, and harbors emerge from beneath the waves. These modern discoveries not only validate ancient accounts, but also reveal astonishing details about civilizations that were previously thought to exist only in legend. One of the most spectacular modern discoveries is the city of Thonis-Heracleion off the coast of Egypt. First located in the late 1990s, the city had lain hidden beneath sediment for over a millennium. Submersible cameras and sonar revealed massive temples, statues of gods, and rows of houses submerged under 10 meters of water. Divers documented colossal sphinxes, stone columns engraved with hieroglyphics, and streets that had once been bustling centers of commerce. The precision of construction, alignment of temples, and scale of the city astounded researchers. This discovery provided tangible evidence for ancient accounts, bridging centuries of mystery and confirming that what had been dismissed as legend was in fact a sophisticated, thriving civilization swallowed by the sea. In India, the sunken city of Dwarka has become another focal point for modern exploration. Located off the coast of Gujarat, Dwarka's submerged ruins reveal stone walls, streets laid out in geometric precision, and remnants of temples, some still adorned with carvings of deities. Archaeologists using sonar mapping and diving expeditions have recovered artifacts, pottery, and stone pillars, corroborating descriptions in ancient texts. What is striking is the advanced engineering. Streets perfectly aligned, structures built to withstand tidal movements, and urban planning that suggests a highly organized society. Each discovery beneath the waves challenges assumptions about the capabilities of ancient civilizations, suggesting knowledge and sophistication that modern observers struggle to fully comprehend. The Mediterranean continues to yield surprises. Excavations off the coasts of Italy, Greece, and Turkey reveal ports, harbors, and structures submerged due to earthquakes, tsunamis, and gradual sea level rise. Sonar imaging detects the outlines of walls, streets, and buildings, often perfectly preserved beneath layers of sediment. Artifacts recovered include ceramics, tools, and religious relics, offering insights into daily life, trade, and spiritual practices. These findings illuminate the interconnectedness of ancient civilizations, showing that coastal trade hubs were sophisticated, cosmopolitan, and vulnerable to natural disasters. Modern technology has not only increased the number of discoveries, but also improved the accuracy of documentation. High-resolution sonar mapping creates detailed, three-dimensional models of submerged cities, allowing researchers to study urban layouts, architectural techniques, and even celestial alignments of temples without disturbing fragile sites. Remote-operated vehicles, ROVs, equipped with cameras can explore depths inaccessible to human divers, capturing images of artifacts and structures in situ. This non-invasive approach preserves the integrity of sites while providing a wealth of data for analysis, bridging the gap between archaeology and technology in unprecedented ways. Artifacts retrieved during modern expeditions often reveal details invisible to earlier explorers. In Dwarka, stone carvings depict scenes of ceremonial processions and daily life, while inscriptions hint at social hierarchies and religious practices. Bronze tools and ornaments suggest metallurgical knowledge that may have rivaled or exceeded contemporary civilizations. Similar finds in the Mediterranean show the sophistication of trade networks, construction methods, and artistic traditions. Each piece not only provides historical evidence, but also deepens the mystery, revealing a culture that was advanced, organized, and yet ultimately lost to forces beyond its control. One of the most compelling aspects of modern underwater discoveries is the intersection of legend and evidence. Ancient texts, long dismissed as allegorical, now align closely with the physical remnants found beneath the waves. The stories of Dwarka, Thonis-Heracleion, and other submerged cities are no longer just myths. They are historically substantiated events, preserved by sediment, coral, and time. This convergence between narrative and archaeology creates a cinematic tapestry of discovery, where each revelation evokes awe, wonder, and a renewed sense of curiosity about what other secrets the oceans may hold. Modern explorations also highlight the challenges of preservation and interpretation. Ocean currents, sediment shifts, and biological growth constantly alter sites, and divers must contend with fragile structures that may crumble under the slightest disturbance. Yet these challenges also underscore the urgency of exploration. As technology advances, more of these lost cities can be documented, studied, and preserved for future generations. Each expedition contributes not only to historical knowledge, but also to a broader understanding of human ingenuity, resilience, and vulnerability. By the end of this section, the viewer gains a profound appreciation for the scope and significance of modern underwater discoveries. Technology has transformed the oceans from a place of mystery into a repository of human history, revealing civilizations of astonishing complexity, artistry, and sophistication. These discoveries validate ancient accounts, deepen the intrigue of sunken kingdoms, and set the stage for exploring the cultural, spiritual, and symbolic significance of these submerged worlds. The audience is now ready to delve into the next chapter, where the focus shifts from discovery to interpretation. The mysteries encoded in artifacts, architecture, and the very memory of lost civilizations. The discovery of sunken cities is not merely an archaeological or historical endeavor. It is also a journey into the cultural and spiritual heart of civilizations long lost. Each submerged structure, artifact, and relic offers a window into the worldview, beliefs, and rituals of societies that once thrived along coasts now swallowed by the sea. Beyond bricks and stone, these kingdoms preserve intangible legacies, philosophies, spiritual practices, and artistic expressions that reveal a deep understanding of human existence and its delicate balance with nature. Religious architecture, in particular, provides compelling insights. Temples uncovered in Thonis-Heracleion and other submerged sites demonstrate precise alignments with celestial events, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Such alignments were rarely incidental. They connected spiritual practice with the rhythms of the cosmos, creating spaces where the divine and human intersected. Temples, altars, and ceremonial pathways were carefully designed to guide ritual, meditation, and observation of the heavens. The spiritual landscape of these cities reflects a civilization attuned to natural cycles, moral philosophy, and cosmic order. Values encoded in architecture as much as in scripture or ritual. Artifacts also carry symbolic and spiritual significance. Statues of deities, amulets, and ritual objects provide tangible evidence of religious practices, cosmology, and societal priorities. In some cases, motifs carved into stone or painted on pottery depict mythological narratives, moral lessons, or astronomical phenomena. These symbols were more than decoration. They encoded knowledge, philosophy, and memory in forms that could endure through generations, even when cities themselves were lost. Religious artifacts functioned as both devotional tools and carriers of cultural identity, preserving the essence of a civilization beneath layers of sediment. Sunken kingdoms also reflect a profound understanding of the relationship between humans and the natural world. Urban planning often incorporated natural features such as rivers, coastlines, and tidal patterns, blending engineering with ecological awareness. Harbors were constructed to take advantage of currents and tides, while canals, reservoirs, and drainage systems indicate a sophisticated approach to water management. Even the orientation of streets and temples often accounted for sun, wind, and seasonal shifts, revealing a culture deeply integrated with its environment. These practices suggest that spiritual beliefs were inseparable from practical knowledge, forming a holistic worldview in which survival, prosperity, and morality were intertwined. The cultural impact of sunken kingdoms also extends into art, music, and literature. Carvings, murals, and inscriptions discovered underwater often depict scenes of daily life, mythological events, and ritual practice, offering a narrative of societal values and aspirations. Music, though intangible, can be inferred through depictions of instruments, ceremonies, and communal gatherings. Written texts, when preserved, record not only administrative details, but philosophical and ethical reflections. Together, these cultural elements create a multidimensional portrait of a society that celebrated human creativity, social cohesion, and spiritual insight, while simultaneously respecting the forces of nature that ultimately consumed it. Symbolism in submerged artifacts often carries layered meanings. Geometric patterns, numerology, and recurring motifs suggest that these civilizations encoded knowledge intentionally, allowing it to survive even after the physical city was lost. Stone carvings might align with solstices or equinoxes, while temple orientations correspond to cardinal points or celestial bodies. Even mundane objects, such as pottery or jewelry, may contain encoded symbols referencing cosmology, ancestry, or moral law. The ocean, acting as a preservative, ensured that these symbols endured, waiting for modern explorers to uncover and interpret them. Sunken kingdoms also illuminate the psychological and moral dimensions of civilization. Many myths surrounding submerged cities emphasize hubris, imbalance, or moral failure as causes of destruction. Dvarka, Atlantis, and other legendary cities are often portrayed as magnificent yet morally flawed, suggesting that ancient societies linked cultural, technological, and spiritual achievement with ethical responsibility. Archaeological evidence, from religious artifacts to urban planning, reinforces this narrative. The grandeur of the city was inseparable from its values, and its demise a cautionary tale about the consequences of human actions in harmony, or discord, with nature and divine law. The spiritual legacy of sunken kingdoms persists in modern cultural consciousness. Legends, rituals, and esoteric traditions often draw upon the memory of submerged civilizations, encoding lessons, ethics, and historical fragments within stories, festivals, and artistic expression. Secret societies and esoteric orders may have acted as custodians, preserving knowledge, symbolism, and spiritual practice when the physical cities were lost. The connection between past and present, between myth and archaeology, demonstrates that cultural memory is resilient. Even submerged by the sea, the influence of these civilizations continues to resonate, shaping philosophy, art, and spirituality across generations. Artifacts recovered from underwater excavations offer tangible confirmation of these cultural and spiritual dimensions. Stone pillars, engraved tablets, and temple remnants reveal an intentionality in design, alignment, and ornamentation that transcends mere functionality. These artifacts speak of a civilization that celebrated knowledge, aesthetics, and spiritual insight, embedding wisdom into the very fabric of its cities. Each object recovered is a testament to human creativity, resilience, and the pursuit of understanding. Proof that even when a city is lost, its essence can survive in cultural memory and spiritual practice. By the end of this section, the viewer grasps that sunken kingdoms are more than archaeological curiosities. They are repositories of human aspiration, creativity, and spirituality. They illustrate the integration of practical knowledge, ethical principles, and cosmological understanding, showing that ancient civilizations were sophisticated, morally conscious, and intimately aware of their place in the cosmos. The stage is now set to explore the dramatic consequences of human hubris and natural catastrophe, moving from the spiritual and cultural significance of these cities to the cataclysms that engulf them and the stories that survived as both warning and wonder. The submersion of ancient civilizations was rarely a gradual process. In many cases, it was sudden, violent, and cataclysmic. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and rising sea levels converged to engulf cities, leaving behind only fragments of stone, artifact, and memory. These cataclysms are central to the story of sunken kingdoms, illustrating the fragility of human achievement in the face of immense natural forces. Understanding the nature of these disasters sheds light not only on historical events, but also on the extraordinary resilience and ingenuity of the societies that fell victim to them. Seismic activity has been a significant factor in the submersion of coastal cities. Many ancient settlements were built along fault lines, attracted by fertile soil, access to waterways, and strategic trade routes. Yet these locations came with inherent risks. Sudden earthquakes could rupture land, destabilize structures, and trigger devastating tsunamis. The Eastern Mediterranean, the Indian Ocean, and the coastlines of Japan are all regions where tectonic activity has repeatedly reshaped geography, swallowing entire settlements in moments of geological upheaval. Archaeological evidence of collapsed buildings, shifted foundations, and fractured monuments corroborates accounts of catastrophic destruction described in ancient texts and myths. Tsunamis, generated by underwater earthquakes or volcanic eruptions, were particularly destructive. Powerful waves swept inland, erasing cities with little warning. In Dvarka, The alignment of submerged streets and temples suggests that the city may have been partially protected by natural barriers, but ultimately succumbed to overwhelming forces of water. Similarly, Thonis-Heracleion's submersion aligns with seismic activity and rising sea levels, indicating that a combination of natural factors led to its rapid disappearance. These events were not isolated. They were part of a larger pattern of coastal vulnerability observed in multiple ancient civilizations, highlighting the delicate balance between human ambition and nature's unpredictability. Rising sea levels, caused by long-term climatic shifts, also played a crucial role. Gradual inundation may have weakened foundations, eroded defenses, and forced populations to relocate. Combined with sudden seismic events or tsunamis, rising waters created catastrophic outcomes. Ancient civilizations were aware of seasonal tides and fluctuations, but prolonged changes in sea level exceeded their adaptive capacity. This interplay between slow environmental change and sudden disasters illustrates a complex relationship. Human ingenuity could manage predictable conditions, but not the extreme forces that nature occasionally unleashed. Historical texts, myths, and oral traditions often encode these cataclysms in symbolic or narrative form. The Mahabharata's description of Dvarka's submersion, for instance, emphasizes divine will and moral consequence alongside the physical disaster. Similarly, Plato's account of Atlantis combines moral allegory with detailed descriptions of geological catastrophe. These narratives preserve memory where material evidence alone cannot, offering glimpses into the experience of ancient populations facing overwhelming natural forces. The repetition of flood myths, tidal legends, and earthquake stories across cultures suggests that cataclysms were frequent enough to leave lasting impressions on collective memory. Archaeological findings support these accounts. Collapsed temples, toppled statues, fractured columns, and displaced streets testify to sudden, violent events. Sediment layers indicate rapid deposition, consistent with tsunamis or flooding. Coral-encrusted structures, preserved by their submersion, reveal patterns of destruction and survival. In some cases, entire harbors were buried beneath silt, preserving ships and cargoes as snapshots of daily life at the moment of catastrophe. These material traces provide a tangible counterpart to myth and legend, confirming that natural disasters were often both sudden and catastrophic. The impact of these cataclysms extended beyond physical destruction. Social structures, trade networks, and cultural institutions were disrupted, leaving survivors to adapt to new realities or abandon their cities altogether. Knowledge, technology, and art were often lost, preserved only in fragments, oral traditions, isolated artifacts, or spiritual memory. In this sense, cataclysms were not merely geological events. They were societal turning points, erasing centers of human achievement while leaving behind a cultural and spiritual legacy for future generations to interpret. Yet, even in destruction, there is evidence of resilience and foresight. Some cities incorporated protective measures, such as elevated platforms, seawalls, or canal systems, demonstrating that ancient engineers anticipated environmental challenges. Religious rituals and prophecies also served as warnings, encoding collective memory of prior disasters to guide future generations. While ultimately insufficient to prevent submersion, these measures reflect an intimate knowledge of environmental hazards and a sophisticated understanding of the interplay between human settlements and natural forces. The cinematic drama of these cataclysms is striking. Towering waves, collapsing temples, frantic evacuations, and the sudden transformation of bustling cities into silent underwater ruins. Modern divers exploring these sites can almost imagine the chaos, fear, and resilience of the inhabitants. The ocean, both grave and preservative, conceals these events while simultaneously safeguarding the evidence, leaving archaeologists, historians, and explorers to piece together the story of human triumph and vulnerability. By the end of this section, the viewer understands that the disappearance of sunken kingdoms was a combination of gradual environmental shifts and sudden, violent cataclysms. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and rising seas did more than destroy cities. They reshaped cultural memory, mythology, and human perception of the natural world. These cataclysms connect the tangible evidence recovered underwater with the symbolic and narrative accounts preserved across centuries, creating a bridge between archaeology, legend, and human experience. The stage is now set to explore the lingering mysteries, unanswered questions, and tantalizing hints that continue to intrigue researchers and adventurers alike. Even after centuries of exploration, excavation, and research, sunken kingdoms continue to defy complete understanding. Despite advances in technology, detailed sonar mapping, and meticulous archaeological study, anomalies persist. Enigmatic structures, inexplicable artifacts, and unusual formations that challenge conventional explanations. These mysteries fuel both scholarly curiosity and public fascination, suggesting that these submerged civilizations were not only advanced, but may also have possessed knowledge or capabilities that remain beyond our grasp. One of the most striking anomalies comes from Varka, where divers have reported unusually precise stone formations on the seabed. Some structures appear artificially shaped, arranged in geometric patterns that suggest intentional city planning far older than mainstream historical timelines would predict. Massive stone walls, square and rectangular platforms, and remnants of streets align in ways that indicate advanced urban planning. What is puzzling, however, is the scale and precision of these constructions, given the technological limitations assumed for the period. How could such massive stones be quarried, transported, and positioned with such accuracy without advanced machinery? These questions linger, unresolved, inviting speculation about lost engineering techniques or knowledge transmitted from earlier civilizations. Similarly, Thonis-Heracleion and Canopus, submerged off the Egyptian coast, reveal anomalies in layout and architecture. Colossal statues, enormous temples, and ceremonial complexes lie buried under sediment, often partially intact. Yet, certain aspects of these sites are perplexing. Some statues are carved from a single monolithic stone and weigh several tons, yet were positioned upright in locations accessible only by water. Evidence of rapid construction, as indicated by sediment layers and preservation patterns, suggests that these civilizations could mobilize massive labor forces efficiently, perhaps with knowledge of physics or engineering now lost to history. How these societies achieved such feats without leaving written instructions or manuals remains a profound mystery. Artifacts recovered from sunken sites also present enigmas. In Dvarka, bronze tools, jewelry, and ritual objects often display sophistication that exceeds expectations for the era. Intricate metalworking techniques, unusual alloys, and patterns suggest advanced knowledge of chemistry and metallurgy. Some objects bear symbols or inscriptions that are not yet fully deciphered, hinting at a written language or symbolic system lost to time. These artifacts challenge the narrative of linear technological progress, suggesting that certain skills, once mastered by ancient civilizations, may have been forgotten or intentionally hidden after cataclysmic events. Beyond physical structures and artifacts, unusual geological formations complicate the narrative. Sonar scans often detect patterns on the seabed that resemble roads, walls, or enclosures. Some formations appear unnatural, yet their true purpose or origin is difficult to confirm. Are they remnants of urban planning, ceremonial sites, or natural formations misinterpreted as man-made? These anomalies underscore the ocean's role as both a preserver and concealer of history, simultaneously revealing and obscuring the civilizations that lie beneath its surface. Each new scan, dive, or excavation adds fragments of information, yet the complete picture remains elusive. Some mysteries extend to cultural and mythological connections. Across disparate regions, from the coasts of India to the Mediterranean, Japan, and Central America, legends speak of cities lost to the sea, civilizations punished or obliterated by natural forces. While mainstream historians often view these stories as independent myths, certain parallels are striking. Recurrent motifs of floods, divine punishment, advanced cities, and sudden destruction suggest either shared memory of real events or cultural diffusion of knowledge. Could these myths reflect actual historical incidents preserved through oral tradition? And if so, how did widely separated cultures acquire similar motifs? These questions remain unresolved, fueling theories about ancient global connectivity, lost knowledge, or suppressed history. Mysteries also surround the apparent preservation of certain artifacts. In some submerged sites, materials that should have deteriorated over centuries, wooden beams, organic textiles, or even delicate inscriptions, remain partially intact. In Thonis-Heracleion, for example, timber structures preserved in anaerobic sediment conditions provide an unusually clear window into ancient construction techniques and daily life. Yet the sheer quality of preservation raises questions. Why do some materials survive almost perfectly while others vanish completely? Are these preservation patterns purely natural, or might ancient builders have anticipated submersion and employed techniques designed to extend the longevity of key structures and objects? Even the human response to catastrophe is shrouded in mystery. Evidence suggests that some populations may have attempted to relocate, build protective structures, or preserve knowledge before their cities were lost. Temples and ceremonial spaces sometimes contain artifacts deliberately arranged, perhaps as offerings, warnings, or repositories of knowledge. Certain inscriptions hint at awareness of impending disaster, encoded warnings, or moral instruction. These patterns suggest a sophisticated understanding of environmental and societal risks, coupled with a desire to communicate with future generations. Yet the full intent behind these actions remains speculative. The anomalies extend into unexplained technological elements. Some submerged constructions demonstrate precision and alignment that would be challenging even with modern tools. Astronomical alignments, perfectly level stone platforms, and intricate water management systems suggest knowledge of celestial mechanics, engineering, and hydrology. While some researchers attribute these feats to trial and error ingenuity, others propose that we may be missing crucial context about the tools, techniques, or cultural knowledge that ancient builders possessed. This gap between known capability and observed construction continues to inspire both academic debate and imaginative speculation. Furthermore, unexplained artifacts occasionally challenge chronological assumptions. Certain metal objects, stone carvings, or architectural features appear far older than the civilizations traditionally credited with their creation. If dating is accurate, this implies either the survival of knowledge from even earlier, unrecorded societies, or the existence of a global network of cultural transmission that mainstream history has yet to fully acknowledge. Such anomalies raise profound questions about the flow of human knowledge, the longevity of cultural memory, and the possibility of forgotten civilizations whose influence endures beneath the ocean. The cinematic allure of these mysteries cannot be overstated. Each dive into a sunken city is both archaeological investigation and exploration into the unknown. Divers encounter streets, temples, statues, and artifacts frozen in time. Yet the reasons behind their construction, abandonment, and eventual submersion remain partly inscrutable. These mysteries invite speculation, storytelling, and the blending of scientific inquiry with narrative imagination, making Sunken Kingdoms a uniquely compelling intersection of history, legend, and enduring enigma. By the end of this section, the audience is left with a profound sense of wonder and curiosity. Sunken Kingdoms are not just ruins. They are complex puzzles, blending advanced engineering, artistic achievement, and mysterious anomalies that continue to defy explanation. They challenge assumptions about human capability, the preservation of knowledge, and the interpretation of myth. This lingering uncertainty prepares the viewer for the next section, where the focus will shift to the global connections and trade networks that may have linked these civilizations, offering potential clues to the mysteries that persist beneath the waves.
Sunken kingdoms were not isolated. They existed within vast networks of trade, culture, and exchange that spanned continents and oceans. These civilizations thrived not only because of their advanced engineering or spiritual insight, but also because they were integrated into global systems of commerce, knowledge, and influence. Understanding these connections provides crucial context for their rise, their sudden submersion, and the enduring mysteries that continue to fascinate historians, archaeologists, and explorers today. Maritime trade was the lifeblood of many coastal civilizations. Ports, harbors, and shipping lanes facilitated the movement of goods, people, and ideas, linking cities like Atlantis, Thonis-Heracleion, and those scattered along the Mediterranean and Indian Ocean coasts. Evidence from underwater excavations, including amphory, pottery, tools, and ornaments, demonstrate extensive trade relationships. Amphory from the Mediterranean, for example, have been found off the coast of India, while Indian beads and metals appear in Mediterranean shipwrecks, suggesting that these civilizations engaged in far-reaching commerce that transcended regional boundaries. Such connections indicate a level of sophistication in maritime navigation, logistics, and diplomacy that challenges traditional historical timelines. These trade networks facilitated cultural exchange as much as economic exchange. Artistic motifs, religious practices, and architectural techniques often appear strikingly similar across distant regions. Sculptures, pottery designs, and temple layouts show parallels that hint at shared knowledge or intentional diffusion of ideas. For instance, certain stylistic elements found in Indian coastal ruins mirror those in the Aegean and Mediterranean, suggesting that artisans, architects, and merchants may have carried techniques, motifs, or symbolic meanings across oceans. The sea, once a barrier, became a conduit for interconnected civilizations, allowing knowledge to flow even before the age of modern communication. Submerged harbors provide compelling evidence of organized maritime infrastructure. Ports were carefully designed to accommodate large vessels, manage tidal fluctuations, and store goods safely. In Thonis-Heracleion, large quays, warehouses, and docking areas demonstrate an understanding of logistics and urban planning that aligns with historical records of thriving trade. Dvarka's underwater streets suggest organized transport routes designed for commerce and social cohesion. The meticulous construction of these maritime centers underscores the importance of trade in maintaining the prosperity and influence of coastal kingdoms. Currency, weights, and trade markers recovered from submerged sites further illuminate these global networks. Coins from distant lands, standardized weights, and trade seals reveal that merchants engage in complex transactions, often across multiple regions. These artifacts suggest sophisticated economic systems and legal frameworks for commerce. They also imply an awareness of foreign markets, standardized measurement, and possibly even early banking practices, demonstrating that these civilizations were deeply integrated into interregional economic networks. The exchange of knowledge was as vital as the exchange of goods. Maps, navigational charts, and recorded observations reveal that merchants and sailors transmitted information about currents, tides, celestial navigation, and coastal geography across generations. This knowledge was likely shared among trusted guilds, families, or secretive societies, ensuring safe passage, profitable trade, and the preservation of strategic intelligence. Such networks may have indirectly contributed to the preservation of knowledge about submerged kingdoms, encoded in myths, oral traditions, or symbolic systems that survived long after physical cities vanished. Maritime networks also foster political and diplomatic connections. Coastal cities often form alliances to secure trade routes, mutual defense, or cultural exchange. Archaeological evidence suggests that rulers engage in both competitive and cooperative interactions, balancing local control with broader regional influence. Submerged artifacts such as ceremonial gifts, imported luxury goods, and inscriptions reflect these interactions, revealing a complex tapestry of diplomacy, trade, and social negotiation that bound civilizations together across great distances. These global connections help explain the similarities observed in myths and legends surrounding sunken cities. Flood stories, divine punishment, and catastrophic destruction recur across regions that were likely in contact through maritime trade. The transmission of these narratives may have served multiple purposes: moral instruction, preservation of historical memory, and reinforcement of trade alliances. By encoding lessons about hubris, disaster, and survival, these stories travel along the same networks that carried spices, metals, and luxury goods, intertwining human experience with commerce, culture, and spirituality. One of the most intriguing aspects of these trade networks is the implication that knowledge about sunken kingdoms may have been deliberately transmitted and preserved. Artifacts and texts suggest that information about coastal hazards, advanced engineering techniques, or spiritual practices was shared selectively, possibly through guilds, priestly orders, or merchant families. This selective transmission ensured continuity of knowledge, even in the face of sudden catastrophes that destroyed urban centers. In this sense, trade networks function not only as economic arteries, but also as conduits for cultural preservation and intellectual survival. The interconnectedness of civilizations also raises questions about the possibility of coordinated or shared technological advancements. Stone construction techniques, water management systems, and navigational knowledge appear in multiple regions, suggesting either independent innovation or diffusion of expertise across oceans. Some researchers speculate that lost civilizations may have had a global or semi-global understanding of architecture, engineering, and astronomy, knowledge that became fragmented after submersion and disaster. These lingering questions challenge conventional historical narratives, inviting further exploration into the depth and sophistication of human achievement in the ancient world. By the end of this section, the viewer gains a vivid picture of sunken kingdoms as nodes within an intricate web of trade, cultural exchange, and knowledge transmission. These civilizations were far from isolated. They were participants in a complex global network that connected oceans, peoples, and ideas. Understanding these connections reframes sunken kingdoms not simply as tragedies of destruction, but as dynamic centers of human ingenuity, creativity, and exchange. The stage is now set for the next section, where the narrative turns inward, exploring the human dimension, the lives, beliefs, and ambitions of the people who inhabited these remarkable civilizations and whose legacy continues to resonate beneath the waves.
Beneath the ocean waves, the remnants of sunken kingdoms tell stories not only of cities and architecture, but of the people who built, inhabited, and ultimately witnessed their destruction. These were societies brimming with ambition, creativity, and spiritual insight. Every street, temple, and artifact is a testament to human aspiration, reflecting a culture in which daily life, moral philosophy, and cosmic awareness were deeply intertwined. Understanding the lives of these inhabitants adds a human dimension to the submerged cities, transforming them from ruins into vibrant centers of civilization that once pulsed with energy, faith, and purpose. Daily life in sunken kingdoms appears to have been highly organized. Streets, marketplaces, and residential quarters reveal careful planning, suggesting that inhabitants lived within structured social hierarchies. Archaeological evidence from Atlantis and Thonis-Heracleion indicates distinct zones for commerce, governance, and worship, demonstrating that the management of urban life was sophisticated. Markets overflowed with goods, spices, textiles, metals, and ceramics, indicating vibrant trade networks and a prosperous citizenry. Artisans and merchants contributed to an economy that combined local production with long-distance trade, ensuring that these civilizations were not merely self-sufficient, but cosmopolitan hubs of exchange. Religious and spiritual practices permeated every aspect of daily life. Temples, altars, and ceremonial spaces were central to social organization, serving as both centers of worship and repositories of cultural knowledge. Rituals often involved offerings, music, and symbolic gestures, aligning human activity with celestial patterns and seasonal cycles. Priests or spiritual leaders likely held significant influence, mediating between the divine and human realms while overseeing education, law, and cultural continuity. The alignment of temples with solstices, equinoxes, or planetary movements demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, indicating that religious practice was inseparable from empirical observation and cosmic awareness. Education and knowledge transmission were also central to these civilizations. Inscriptions, carvings, and surviving artifacts suggest that inhabitants engaged in systematic learning, including literacy, mathematics, and astronomical observation. Schools, libraries, or knowledge centers may have existed within or adjacent to temples, allowing knowledge to pass from one generation to the next. Symbolic systems, whether in stone inscriptions or ritualistic artifacts, functioned as memory devices, preserving cultural, scientific, and spiritual insights despite the eventual submersion of cities. The deliberate preservation of knowledge reflects a profound awareness of mortality, disaster, and the fragility of human achievement. Social structure in these kingdoms was likely complex. Evidence of hierarchical living quarters, ceremonial roles, and specialized labor indicates that citizens were organized by skill, status, or spiritual function. Leaders, merchants, artisans, priests, and laborers all played roles in maintaining the city's functioning, prosperity, and cultural cohesion. Monumental constructions, such as temples and civic buildings, suggest coordinated labor, implying a system capable of mobilizing people effectively while balancing societal needs, religious obligations, and economic priorities. This structure reflects not only organization, but also a philosophical understanding of human interdependence, a recognition that society thrives when its members fulfill complementary roles. The ambition of these civilizations is evident in their engineering feats. Aqueducts, canals, and harbors reveal knowledge of hydraulics and urban planning, while monumental architecture demonstrates mastery of stone, metallurgy, and design. Streets were laid out with precision, buildings aligned to cardinal points, and temples oriented to celestial phenomena. These accomplishments reflect a culture that valued mastery, innovation, and the aesthetic integration of function with spiritual symbolism. Such sophistication suggests a people deeply attuned to both the material and metaphysical dimensions of existence. Cultural expression was equally rich. Artifacts recovered from underwater sites, sculptures, carvings, jewelry, pottery, and ceremonial tools reveal a society that celebrated creativity, ritual, and identity. Artistic motifs often combine symbolic, religious, and practical elements, demonstrating a nuanced understanding of narrative, symbolism, and communal memory. Music and performance likely played significant roles in ceremonial life, inferred from depictions of instruments, dance, and ritual gatherings. Even clothing and ornamentation, as preserved in artifacts or depictions, provide insight into social norms, aesthetic preferences, and cultural identity. The inhabitants of sunken kingdoms were also deeply aware of mortality and the impermanence of human endeavors. Mythology, prophecy, and oral traditions indicate that citizens recognized the forces of nature as both creative and destructive. Flood legends, divine punishment, and the sudden destruction of cities were encoded into stories and rituals, shaping moral and ethical frameworks. These narratives served as warnings, teaching future generations about balance, moderation, and respect for natural forces. In this sense, spiritual belief was not merely superstition, but a sophisticated system of knowledge, integrating observation, ethics, and communal memory into practical guidance for survival. Trade and exploration were integral to the ambitions of these peoples. Maritime networks extended influence, knowledge, and wealth far beyond local shores. Merchants, navigators, and diplomats not only facilitated commerce, but also transmitted culture, religion, and technological knowledge. The resulting cosmopolitanism enriched daily life, inspired innovation, and created a dynamic environment in which ideas could circulate freely. Trade artifacts, foreign goods, and stylistic similarities across regions attest to these extensive connections, revealing that inhabitants of sunken kingdoms were both worldly and forward-looking, aware of their place in a broader, interconnected human narrative. Despite their sophistication, the people of sunken kingdoms were vulnerable. Natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, rising seas, could erase entire cities in moments, underscoring the precariousness of human endeavor. Yet the traces they left behind, urban planning, artifacts, temples, and myths, testify to resilience, foresight, and cultural sophistication. In many cases, survivors may have carried knowledge, stories, and artifacts to new lands, ensuring that the legacy of these civilizations endured even when their cities disappeared beneath the waves. The psychological and spiritual dimensions of these inhabitants are perhaps the most compelling. Living in coastal regions, aware of the potential for sudden catastrophe, citizens developed moral, ethical, and spiritual frameworks that emphasized responsibility, balance, and reverence for the natural world. Their myths and rituals reflect a dual consciousness, one rooted in daily life and practical concerns, the other in cosmic awareness and existential contemplation. By encoding their knowledge and beliefs into physical structures, artifacts, and oral traditions, they achieved a form of immortality, ensuring that future generations could glimpse the depth and richness of their civilization. By the end of this section, the audience gains a vivid, humanized perspective of sunken kingdoms. These were not merely cities or artifacts. They were living, breathing societies with ambitions, beliefs, and values that resonate across time. Understanding the lives of their inhabitants transforms the submerged ruins into vibrant centers of human experience, highlighting the interplay between ingenuity, spirituality, and the unpredictability of nature. The stage is now set for the climactic sections, synthesizing discovery, mystery, and modern interpretation to illuminate the full significance of sunken kingdoms and the enduring questions they pose. The story of sunken kingdoms does not end with the ruins beneath the waves. Instead, it extends into the present, shaping our understanding of history, human ingenuity, and the fragility of civilization. The discoveries of submerged cities like Dvarka, Thonis-Heracleion, and countless lesser-known ruins are not just archaeological triumphs. They are profound revelations that challenge mainstream narratives, invite reinterpretation of ancient knowledge, and inspire both wonder and caution. In this final section, we explore the modern implications of these discoveries, their enduring legacy, and the mysteries that continue to capture the human imagination. Modern underwater archaeology has transformed myth into tangible reality. What was once dismissed as legend or allegory is now supported by empirical evidence. Sonar mapping, submersibles, and advanced diving techniques have unveiled entire streets, temples, harbors, and artifacts with astonishing clarity. Each discovery validates ancient texts, oral traditions, and local legends, confirming that civilizations submerged by natural cataclysms were not only real, but often far more sophisticated than previously imagined. The realization that history is far richer, more complex, and more interconnected than mainstream narratives forces scholars and enthusiasts alike to reconsider accepted timelines, technological assumptions, and cultural hierarchies. The implications for our understanding of human achievement are profound. Sunken kingdoms demonstrate that ancient civilizations mastered engineering, urban planning, astronomy, and metallurgy in ways that rival or surpass later societies. Temples aligned with solstices, ports designed for tidal fluctuations, and structures built to withstand environmental stresses reveal knowledge that challenges conventional chronology. The discovery of artifacts with unknown alloys, intricate carvings, and symbolic inscriptions hints at intellectual traditions that may have been lost or suppressed over millennia. These revelations suggest that human innovation is not linear, but cyclical and occasionally obscured by catastrophe and forgetting. Beyond technology and architecture, sunken kingdoms offer insights into the human psyche and spirituality. The myths surrounding their submersion, warnings of hubris, moral failure, and divine retribution, carry enduring lessons about the consequences of imbalance, greed, or neglect. Ancient societies encoded knowledge about disaster preparedness, ethical governance, and environmental stewardship into narratives, rituals, and urban design. The preservation of these lessons beneath the waves is a reminder that human achievement is intertwined with moral responsibility, and that the memory of civilizations lost to catastrophe can continue to guide future generations. The discoveries also invite speculation about the continuity of knowledge. Evidence suggests that survivors of submersion events may have carried skills, stories, and symbolic systems to new regions, seeding subsequent civilizations with fragments of ancient wisdom. This possibility aligns with enigmatic similarities observed in architecture, religious practice, and myth across distant cultures. Could it be that certain architectural techniques, astronomical knowledge, or spiritual concepts traveled oceans and centuries, subtly shaping the trajectory of human development? The ocean, both barrier and conduit, preserve fragments of memory while facilitating the dispersal of ideas, creating a hidden continuity that we are only beginning to recognize. Sunken kingdoms also challenge contemporary perspectives on environmental stewardship and urban resilience. The same natural forces that destroyed these civilizations, earthquakes, tsunamis, and rising seas, remain relevant today. Modern cities along coastlines face similar vulnerabilities, and the study of submerged cities provides historical context for disaster preparedness, sustainable urban planning, and ecological awareness. Ancient wisdom encoded in city layouts, water management systems, and ritualized knowledge of environmental cycles offers valuable lessons for contemporary societies seeking to balance growth, technology, and environmental stability. The cultural legacy of sunken kingdoms extends into literature, art, and popular imagination. Writers, filmmakers, and artists draw inspiration from the mystery, grandeur, and tragic fate of these civilizations. From evocative depictions of Atlantis to cinematic interpretations of Dvarka and Thonis-Heracleion, submerged cities serve as metaphors for human ambition, impermanence, and resilience. They also act as narrative catalysts, blending history, mythology, and esoteric mystery to explore the limits of human knowledge and the enduring power of memory. In this way, sunken kingdoms continue to shape cultural consciousness, bridging past and present, fact and legend. Modern explorers and archaeologists themselves become part of this ongoing narrative. Each expedition, whether mapping a seabed, documenting a submerged temple, or recovering artifacts, combines technical expertise with imagination, courage, and interpretive skill. Diverse report moments of awe and reflection,
observing street sculptures and ruins preserved in time yet silent. These encounters evoke a deep human connection across centuries, reminding us that the lives, ambitions, and beliefs of those who built these civilizations continue to resonate. In the act of exploration, modern humans engage in a dialogue with history, bridging the gap between present curiosity and past ingenuity. The mysteries that persist add to the cinematic allure and intellectual intrigue of sunken kingdoms. Unexplained structures, anomalous artifacts, and undeciphered symbols invite speculation about lost technologies, esoteric knowledge, and cultural continuity. Some suggest that ancient civilizations possessed understanding of astronomy, engineering, and metaphysics that exceeded contemporary assumptions. Others propose that certain information was deliberately encoded or hidden, preserved for future generations to rediscover. While much remains uncertain, the ongoing exploration and interpretation of these anomalies ensure that the story of sunken kingdoms is far from complete, continually evolving with each new discovery. Sunken kingdoms also provoke reflection on the impermanence of human achievement. They are reminders that even the most sophisticated civilizations are vulnerable to forces beyond human control. Earthquakes, floods, and rising seas, once agents of destruction for these cities, serve as metaphors for transient nature of human endeavor. Yet, the preservation of knowledge, art, and memory beneath the waves underscores the resilience of human culture. While structures crumble and cities vanish, ideas, stories, and symbols endure, connecting us to the ingenuity, ambition, and spirituality of those who came before. In examining the modern implications, it becomes evident that sunken kingdoms are more than historical curiosities. They are mirrors reflecting both our past and our future. They encourage interdisciplinary study, combining archaeology, geology, history, mythology, and oceanography. They inspire ethical reflection on environmental stewardship and urban planning. They challenge our assumptions about technological progress, cultural achievement, and the transmission of knowledge. And they remind us that history is not static. It is a living dialogue between the past and present, shaped by discovery, interpretation, and imagination. Finally, the enduring legacy of sunken kingdoms is the sense of wonder they inspire. The idea that entire civilizations, cities, temples, and lives can vanish beneath the waves preserved yet hidden for centuries, captures a human imagination like few other phenomena. Each discovery reconnects us with the triumphs and tragedies of those who came before, reminding us that the story of humanity is vast, complex, and often submerged beneath layers of time and sediment. It is a story of resilience, creativity, spirituality, and the eternal human drive to understand, explore, and remember. By the conclusion of this journey, the viewer is left with a comprehensive vision of sunken kingdoms, their historical reality, technological sophistication, spiritual depth, cultural interconnections, catastrophic vulnerabilities, and enduring mysteries. These civilizations, lost to the sea yet preserved in myth, artifact, and memory, challenge us to reconsider what we know about human history and our relationship to the natural world. The revelations, modern implications, and ongoing legacy of these sunken cities ensure that their story continues to captivate, inspire, and provoke reflection, a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity and the timeless allure of the unknown.